All right, Pastor Marty here, kicking out a little bit of content. I believe it's week 6 or 7, not exactly sure. But this week we did two different routes in our conversation. The first one was how long will you keep putting off the better version of you? There is a version of you that I think you would love to aspire to. There's the thing that you've been wishing you would get accomplished, the thing you wish you would quit doing, and it just seems to not happen. And I think so much of that happens, the delay, the procrastination, the miss, because we're not mindful of how we start our day. And so I want to just kind of remind you how Scripture speaks about a day. That in Genesis, it says that there was evening and there was morning on the first day. And there was evening and there was morning on the second day. When Scripture is looking at the day, it doesn't look at like 4 a.m., 5 a.m., 6 a.m., 7 a.m., 8 a.m., whatever that is. It actually is when the sun goes down. In Israel, they have Shabbat, Sabbath, and it begins Friday at sundown. It is done Saturday at sundown. One of the things I want you to kind of navigate around this conversation of how is your day really starting? When the sun goes down, are you like most people, scrolling, clicking, just kind of, and I would just say, are you pushing your bedtime later, and in some ways debilitating your energy level and your output abilities for that next morning? I want you to kind of think about like, how are you winding down? How are you getting up? And are the right things in place? Most of your, I think it's 45% of the things you do without thinking about them. Think about this. 45? Think about what you're not thinking about. 45%. And so in order to actually make some adjustments to how you are operating, you have to think about some of the things you aren't thinking about. What's your bedtime rhythm? What's your morning time rhythm? Side note, I read a book, The Power of When, years ago, and it kind of just introduced this idea that there are three different kinds of sleep rhythms. They gave names to them. There's the bear, there's the lion, and there's the wolf. Let's start with the lion. The lion is up early, up before, excuse me, up before the sun is even up. And what happens is their serotonin spikes right away in the morning. Their body temperature increases to like, and I mean, they wake up early and they wake up alert. They're just, and all day melatonin, let's go this way, all day melatonin just starts to increase, meaning all day long they're gradually getting more and more tired. Okay, that's a lion. That would be Jenny Schmidt. That is how she operates. That's about 25% of the population. 50% of the population is a bear. Sun's up, they're up. Sun goes down, they get tired. And so you have this gradual movement of serotonin, and then it calms down. At the same time, melatonin, and so they just kind of swap. Okay. And then there's the wolf, and the wolf is another about 23% of the population, and it is serotonin just slowly goes up, just ever so. So again, a lion, peak body temperature high. A wolf, it doesn't spike, it gradually gets bigger. And the wolf is interesting because they can stay up forever as long as you give them food. It doesn't even matter what the food is, they can eat and they will stay alert and active, and they're like ready to go. That would be me. There's about 1 or 2% that are called dolphin. They're like insomniacs. They're completely different kind of breed. What are you? Now, this is really interesting. Let's say we have a big decision to make. Maybe it's financial, maybe a relationship, maybe a schedule, whatever. Jenny wakes up and she's like, hey. And I'm like, right? Morning is not an ideal time for us to have a big conversation, like make a big decision. But at night, I'm like, hey, Jane, like, I was thinking about this and I was thinking about this. Like, evening is not an ideal time for her. And so what we have learned, just this side caveat, the best time for us to have big conversations, big decisions, is when we're both alert, which is usually around the 11 to 3 o'clock range. By 4 o'clock, she's already like ready for bed, and she's just maintaining until she can fall asleep. Okay. that could be something for you to talk about. Let me switch gears though, and fill you in on another topic that a lot of groups, and hopefully Pastor Derek can email this out to you, but it's around that topic of integrity. I tell it, and I'm just going to kind of read this to you quickly, and then you should hopefully have it to discuss. But our integrity is our legacy. And what I have seen is more and more men are compromising in areas of integrity, and it's costing them their family, it's costing them friends, and then they're caving in when trials come. And so Job is the test case for this. Job had integrity in his family. Job would send and consecrate for his children, and he would rise early in the morning, there's the timing, and offer burnt offerings according to the number of them all. And what we learn about Job is that he was consistent. Like our children, like, let's talk about me. I never want my children to say that dad operates different on the platform at church than he does at home. It's like, if you ask my kids, is that what your dad's like? They're like, well, he's a little more like loud or whatever, but like that, who he is who he is. Consistency. Could that be said of you? Are you the same in every single environment you're in? This really was important to me, because when I was growing up, the pastor at our church, we would play floor hockey, and he would like cuss me out while we're playing floor hockey and just treat me like trash. And then he'd say like, our words matter, our words honor God. And I'm like, man, there's inconsistency here. The second thing that we learned about Job and his integrity with his family is not only was he consistent, but he covered his children. He covered them in prayer. He kept handing them over to the Lord. Is that part of you? And there was also this idea of his carefulness. Our actions and behavior should never bring reproach or embarrassment. So with my children, many of you know, I give them $5 anytime they're mentioned in a message. I never want to reveal too much about them. My job is to provide a covering for my children, but they live in a fishbowl, so it's really tricky. Okay, so you could talk a little bit about that. Or here's where most of our conversation with me and my little group, we talked about Job and the integrity he had with his friends. And so like Job had 3 friends, and they heard about what happened to him, and they showed up. Here's my question. How transparent are you with your friends? Okay, so in my group, I'm like, how many circles do you have? See, we all need a close inner circle. My transparency operates in more layers than this, but with my wife, with my executive team, which is Carrie and Rachel and their spouses, which would be Derek and Kelsey, and then with my elders. Every year, I write the elders both a audit on my life personally and an audit on my life professionally, and I let them read it. I let my wife read it, and I say, call me out. The executives read, right. I'm transparent in those circles. And here's one of the things I'm wondering: who are your circles? Some of you, your circles are the same guys you grew up with, same guys in high school who are doing the same stupid things, kind of inviting you into that same kind of foolish kind of content, text messaging about. And I'm just curious, do you have a group that's actually calling better out of you? That's why I think what you're doing in getting in this group is so pivotal, so important, because a group like this actually should inspire you and equip you to be more accountable and walk with greater integrity. I just know it's so important for us to have friends that can kind of keep an eye on us. And so transparency for that, I would say also this, are you aware of when you are most tempted? And have you told anyone about it? This is me. Sunday afternoon, the most tempted. Sunday afternoon is my biggest weak spot, because I have just given all of my energy, all of my adrenaline. I have seen things happen in good, powerful ways. I've heard hard stories. I've seen brilliant things happen through prayer, through a message, and I have nothing left. And so at the end of the day, I am weak, I am tempted, I am insecure, and so I have made it clear to Jenny that on Sundays, that is when I am most likely to stray. I need her close to me on Sundays, all right? Are you aware? Is it Friday? Is it Saturday? Is it Tuesday? Is it the morning? Is it the evening? Is it when your spouse is gone? When are you most tempted? Okay? Because if you don't know, You can't be proactive in it. Or another way to say it is, if I know Jenny's going to leave town, I will let someone know that, hey, I'm by myself, just letting you know, because that is a probiotic instead of an antibiotic. Think about this. When I tell someone that Jenny's gone, I'm more conscious of like, don't screw up, just with lust and things like that, and that's a probiotic. But if I screw up, now I need to like confession, which is the antibiotic, and care for myself. Okay, so you can talk about that. I just find so many men, they're doing life alone, and I'm curious. So many men have made stupid decisions because they didn't include other people in. I think you need someone to help you with your family and finances, your spiritual life. This is why you're in this group. All right. So I got some questions for you to kind of discuss there. Last thing is, Job had integrity even in his trials. And so God was kind of like, have you considered my servant Job? And Satan's like, oh, yeah, we have. But Job's integrity was not about the circumstances. Character is always shown by crisis. Like, what's in you when it's really hard. That for me is what I'm training for. This is why I think fasting is important. Because when you fast, you're training yourself to be able to say no when you have the option. Because sometimes you might not feel like the temptation. Like, can you say no when it's hard? So I teach myself how to say no when it's hard, when I don't have to say no when it's hard. Does that make sense? All right. So those are some thoughts. I'm going to kick all this over, and I hope you have a great conversation.